I have found an anomaly with the Triarchy vector signal generator that I thought I would document here. This is using a Rigol DSA-815 to measure the output amplitude, and as you will see, the Rigol says that the output amplitude is about minus 15 dBm. Round numbers are fine for this because what you'll see is it's quite a bit different from what the software thinks it's putting out, minus 20 dBm. So at first I thought there might be some issues with either the cables I was using or maybe even the Rigol is miscalibrated. So I duplicated the measurement on the Instec GSP730 spectrum analyzer, and I got the same, about minus 15 dBm when it says it should be minus 20. So then I decided to try, originally I made these measurements at 1 gigahertz, so I decided to try 100 megahertz, which is what I'm using right now. And one reason I used 100 megahertz was that would allow me to be well within the frequency range of this Rigol DS4000. It has the upgrade, and I think in a previous video I showed that with the bandwidth upgrade it gets about 500 megahertz, but certainly 100 megahertz is well within its measurement capability. And so I measured it there, and the peak-to-peak voltage indicates about minus 15 dBm. So then I thought, well, let's go over and use the HP generator. Now, the HP I have set to about minus 20, in fact, exactly minus 20 dBm. So, and also at 100, or I'm sorry, I still set it in gigahertz. Let me put that at 100 megahertz, and without changing anything on the Rigol, except just moving the cable, and of course I'll turn the RF off. I never switch cables with RF turned on. So I'll turn off the RF from the Triarchy, move over to the HP, and turn that on, and we'll see what we get on the Rigol. I thought I would just show you the operation. I'm going to be disconnecting the end connector from the Triarchy and connecting it now to the Hewlett-Packard, which I have previously found this generator to be pretty accurate. But at any rate, it's now connected there. Now, as you recall, I'm using about minus 20 dBm, and the RF is off. Let me now turn the RF on. And now let's go look at the Rigol, and as you see, it says the marker is at 100 megahertz and that it's minus 20 or 21 dBm. So in other words, a 5 dBm difference between the indicated output of the HP, which by the way I have verified that is accurate. It is putting out minus 20 dBm into a 50 ohm load. Everything is set up for 50 ohms. I have verified by using the Rigol oscilloscope set to a 50 ohm input. You can see over here that channel 1 is set to 50 ohms right there. And I've measured the actual RMS and peak-to-peak voltage values. Those also verify that this is minus 20 dBm, and yet when I measure the Triarchy, it shows about minus 15 dBm. Now, frankly, this varies over the frequency range. For example, if I go to 1 gigahertz, it actually, instead of minus 20, it shows minus 12 dBm. And so what I have to conclude is that you can't really, at least with this particular version, the copy that I have of the Triarchy vector signal generator, which is right there, I can't depend on the output level settings that show in the software. You have to actually measure the output. Now I'm going to contact Salig about this and let them know, because it could be that I've got a defective unit. I have tried calibrating the unit. Unfortunately, there's not anything in the manual about how to calibrate, but I think I have figured out how to calibrate. At least it seems to send a calibration file, and it seems to have no impact on it. In other words, I can change the calibration, but if I use the calibration file that came with this unit, has this software and this serial number, it still is off by anywhere from 5 to 8 dBm in its output levels. So, short, hopefully, video just depicting what I have found in terms of an anomaly. And otherwise, I have found that this Triarchy is a pretty darn good generator. It seems to work really well over its frequency range to the extent that I can test it. Now, I don't have access to an accurate power meter. The lab I used to be the director of was purchased shortly after I retired and moved, and so I can't even call an old friend and ask for access to the lab because they're not there anymore. But at any rate, I may try to look for a lab, maybe at the university, that can help see if the problem, what the problem is. Also, it may be that Salig can point me to a calibration routine that will bring us back into within spec. But except for the output level, this unit seems to work really well. And by the way, this unit is spec'd to put out up to plus 10 dBm. But this particular unit will put out about plus 20 dBm. So it may be that the whole unit inside is just hotter than I mean, it puts out more than was intended. I don't object to that as long as it doesn't overheat and ruin the unit. But the levels I find I have to measure on something like this Rigol. I can't count on what it says in the software. Okay, talk too long, move on. Well, despite this video getting longer than I had intended, I do have some good news and some bad news. It's now been over 2 months since the segment immediately before this, that is, when I was wrestling with the calibration problem on the Triarchy. I have taken some time away from that, partly to give Salig and Triarchy an opportunity to respond to my messages. Regretfully, the bad news is neither of them responded even to acknowledge the messages. The good news is I think I have figured it out myself by doing a lot of research both on the internet. And one reason that I took some time off was the earlier stuff was being done before Christmas. I needed to take some time off during the holidays and do some things. So I also needed to order some parts from mini circuits and some other things which I won't get into in this video, but they do have to do with the Triarchy and some of the experiments I'd like to perform with it. So at any rate, back to the calibration problem. Well, if you notice here, the instec indicates the unit is putting out approximately a gigahertz at somewhere between minus 0.2 and plus 0.8 dBm. Looking down here now at the Triarchy software, it also says 0 dBm. How did I do that? Well, it turns out that the calibration files that the setup program had copied to my computer were wrong. The ones that were on the CD, and Triarchy sends a little CD along with the device, and it is peculiar to the serial number of your unit. So the calibration files on that CD work. The problem is that the setup program from Triarchy does not copy the correct calibration files over to the unit. I had to do that manually. I got onto this trick when I saw user of an earlier USB product from Triarchy, an RF analyzer or spectrum analyzer, had a similar problem with that unit. Now, it's not the same unit as this, but it is the same company. And so it appears that the problem is the setup program for the Triarchy USB units does not always work correctly. Now, some people it may work for. For me, it didn't. For this other person I found on the internet, it didn't work for him either. And apparently this is a fairly common problem. So, what I suggest you do is compare the calibration files that the setup program puts on your computer with the ones on your CD. If you find that they are not the same files and you are having trouble with calibration, copy the files off the CD, manually copy them. Don't run the setup program again. It just keeps making the same mistake over and over again. I have set this software up 7 times on 3 different computers, and it always uses the wrong calibration files. So, the good news is you can fix this problem. The bad news is don't depend on Triarchy or Salig to help you with this. And so if you have one of these units or any other Triarchy unit, spread the word. The calibration files that set up copies to your computer may be the wrong setup files. Anyway, now this video is definitely too long, so I'm going to break off here and move on to some new experiments that I have planned for the Triarchy. But this morning, I'm a pretty happy camper because I have managed to fix the problem, even though the normal support functions failed me. The internet succeeded. At any rate, until the next video in this series, I hope you'll have a nice day.